Bienvenidos a un nuevo episodio de Somos Founder Hour. Les saluda Edgar Navas, fundador de Clica desde Portland, Oregon. Hoy tengo la grata sorpresa de tener a una celebridad en el mundo de los eSports. Le doy la bienvenida a Ángel Muñoz, fundador de Mass Luminosity. ¿Cómo estás, Ángel? Buenos días.
Buenos días, ¿cómo estás? Thank you for having
Fenomenal.
me on the show. This is fantastic. So
No. Thank you for
I'm
sharing
thrilled.
thank you for sharing just amazing story. You know, we've had so many founders, you know, coming from different backgrounds, but we've never had, at least I never had someone with, you know, first of all, you know, with so much history in technology and especially in e-gaming at this level. So I present you the father of esports,
Oh,
Angel
thank you.
Muñoz.
Yes. So,
But
so
tell me a
people are
little
not
bit, yeah.
so people are not convinced if I'm either the father or the godfather of esports. So I hear both.
But yeah, I mean, and it is so interesting because you don't come from a gaming background or technology. You started as an investment banker. So,
That's
I
right.
mean, how do you get to that world? But first of all, you know, where are you from?
Yeah, so I was born in New York City, and my parents are from the island of Puerto Rico, and so I grew up. I was in New York City from birth to about 10 years, and then moved to Puerto Rico until I was 19, and then moved back to the States. Then
Okay, so you you know, even to more than like, you know,
the
growing up in
formative
an island.
years, my
Yeah.
formative years were definitely in Puerto Rico.
Okay, and then coming back to New York, you did
I
some
went
something
back.
in
I
Miami.
went back actually to Miami. I went
Huh.
when I started through Miami. Yeah,
And what do you do in Miami?
in Miami, I was studying psychology and computer science. They seemed both
Okay.
interesting to me. And then I started working at in the technology section of the hotel business that was going through an incredible transformation at the time of going from what's called a rack system, which means a manual input system, into a computer system. So I was managing their IBM hardware. You know, there were these
Yeah.
massive servers and server rooms, and that's how I became interested and passionate about technology.
All about technology. But then you made this jump into investment banking. How did that
Right.
happen? Yeah.
So a friend of mine called Jack Rodriguez, he thought that I had I did not. I was I'm a college dropout, so they were hiring only college graduates. But he thought that I could apply for the job of an investment banker at the firm that he worked at, and it was a small regional firm in Florida. And it happens that I applied, and they didn't think that I had what it took, but they offered me a job as what's called like cold caller, which is the lowest possible position in investment banking. Is the guy that bothers everyone. In fact, that's illegal now. You can't even do that.
Oh,
And so and then I started working through there, and I loved it. I was passionate about it. I really felt like I was at home, like this is what I was meant to do. And I quickly I became a stockbroker, then an investment banker, and then I launched my own investment banking firm that was called New World Investments. And then we financed several technologies, again back to technology. And then I sold that. And so
okay.
and I thought
So
I
that
was
was your
gonna.
first exit.
Yes, that was the first one. I was 32 at the time. 32, 33, yeah, somewhere around there.
And then, you know, usually, you know, we're plugged into the world of technology, but just by the world of investing. So what was that transition like, or when did you first start to get interested? Like, this is something I want to pursue after my first exit.
I wasn't even that way. It was more of we got a great offer for the company. I put my heart and soul into companies, but I always keep a pragmatic perspective that if there's an offer, it's kind of a joke of mine, but if anybody admires anything that I own, I say it's for sale at the right price.
Yeah, right. Like
Everything
they
I
said,
have is for sale.
everything is for sale at the
Everything
right
is for
price.
sale
Yeah.
at the right price. And so people, it always gets a laugh, but I'm serious. So the investment banking firm. My wife and I both worked there, and we loved it. We really did. We were passionate about it, and it was financially rewarding. And then when we sold it, a friend of mine, Jeff Fox, handed me a copy of the game Doom, and he said,
Oh,
"You need to play
yeah.
this. You need to experience this." And so on the first level of Doom, I am, of course, there's the demons that throw fireballs at you right away, and then once you eliminate those, you go to the left. There's some stairs there, and then there's a platform, and you can look outside. And when you look outside, you see these hills that are sort of foggy. They're painted, of course, because of the technology at the time.
Yeah.
But I was absolutely blown away when I looked at those hills. They seem they it wasn't that they looked real, but they set a mood for the game.
Okay.
And
Oh, I
because you
totally remember that. Yeah, I
yeah,
love that
because
game. But
yeah, so I was like, wow, this game, I'm supposedly on Mars. This is not something that looks, quite frankly, like Mars, but it looks like an isolated place on Earth where you're completely isolated, and it sort of sets that mood of dread. And then I said, wow, I have to be part of this industry. I just
oh
have to.
wow, okay.
So that was
And
my
just
moment.
so that was your first. So you didn't grow up with video games, or do you
Oh
have any
no.
preference?
No, no. I always tell people that the most advanced piece of technology that I had as a kid was the Etch a Sketch, and to reboot it, you had to shake it with
You
both
just
hands.
shake it a bit, yeah.
So no, I was already a teenager when I saw Pong for the first time, and it was an important moment for me because I saw just this large pixel moving back and forth, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. This is the
Mesmerizing.
future. And
Yeah,
then but honestly, the moment of transformation for me was when I saw Doom and I was inside and I looked out those windows on that platform on the left. As you move forward just a little bit, you make a left, go up the steps, and there's a platform up there, and you look outside, and I was like, I'm in another world. This is unbelievable.
yeah.
This is convincing me that I'm somewhere else.
And
And
that was on a PC. Yeah, it was a
that was a
PC game.
laptop, actually. That was
Yeah.
a laptop. It
Oh,
was the first laptop that was colored with colored screen,
yeah.
which was 16 colors. It was an NEC,
And this
and
was
it was
the
state
one
of
that was a brick. Yeah,
yeah, and it was state of the art.
probably
people
like five
people would come
thousand dollars.
over to look at
Yeah.
my laptop that had colors on it.
Wow.
16
Yeah,
color, 16 colors.
because the precursor of that it was the green screen. That was it.
Yes,
I mean,
yes, of
again, we
course,
all
yeah,
had them. Well,
yeah.
not all of we.
Yeah,
Because
well, you could have color, but you needed a desktop, right?
right.
And then
Yeah,
that was 256 at the time, I think. And then this was 16, and it was like, and it didn't have speakers, so you had to use I think, what company was it? I think it was Creative. Yes, it was Creative that made this sort of virtual sound uh that and you put it had little speakers on the side that were really, really bad, but at least you got a sense of the sounds that were in the game.
yeah.
And that was my first experience, and that was enough to change my life at the moment. So
So yeah, that was transformative. In every sense of the world. But how do you like? How do you start? How do you got your feet into the gaming? Well,
well, I
probably
went
that word didn't
slowly on that.
exist.
I
Yeah.
first launched a website. So first, before I even did that, I started hanging out in different places online, and there was a virtual environment called Alpha World, and it was you had avatars, physical avatars. You would drop down, you could build things in the world, and I liked it. I really did enjoy it, and I started meeting people there. And it's very easy. One of the things about gaming is that it's very easy to since you have a common interest,
Yeah.
and in this case it was being in a virtual world and everybody was kind of a gamer, to make friendships. And so I started talking to several people there about launching a professional um, gaming website, which did not exist at the time. They were all kind of small little mom and pops, and I wanted something international and something, uh, more,
More
you know, m-
structure, or
maybe stronger editorials, right?
okay.
So well written and all that. And with that idea, we launched a website called Adrenaline Vault, and it was a huge success. It's incredible.
And this
It
is like in
attract.
the mid '90s, or
This was in 19. Let me think. Not, we launched Avolt in 1995, exactly mid 90s.
okay.
So,
So it was
and
the
that.
beginning of the internet, as we know it
Well,
now, right? But
yes, that was the. It
yeah,
was the. It was and it was the start of a revolution. Yeah,
yeah,
and I knew it. I knew it. I knew that we were sort of the pioneers of at the time. And so that website went well. We had advertising and all that. It's in the early days of advertising. And I got to know the gaming community much better. And then 2 years later, in 1997, I decided to launch eSports. And
okay.
with the first professional league for electronic sports, which was called the Cyber Athlete Professional League, or better known as CPL.
The CPL.
The
So that
CPL.
I mean, I'm just going into context because a lot of the people in our audience, that might be too young to know what 1995 looked like. But I remember I was in college. I had my computer. I had to dial in. The internet was just literally starting to move. I mean, there were not that many websites. They were clunky. Everything took forever to download, especially in multimedia. So if you had a picture or a video coming your way, you had to wait until the image is uploaded and downloaded. So we're talking here now. We fast forward and we're like, oh, gaming. We're interconnected. We have mobile phones. We can play from anywhere on demand. But we didn't have the bandwidth. We didn't have the technology to compress all these large files. So how do you what was it? How was that world, for you in the beginning, and all the things? Oh, I want to be able to do this, but we had limitations in technology.
The limitations in technology were not so much we're more of things that you can circumvent and that required intelligence to circumvent than solid obstacles.
Okay.
So we were able to use, this is in the era of modems, and then some were faster than others. And at the time it was US Robotics that was the number one
Yeah.
modem. Remember those days?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. My
and
56
Yes, and so
and
then
my
Netgear and other companies made better equipment. So we people were playing online. There were services that were designed to optimize those experiences. It was like joining a pseudo internet that was faster, quite frankly. And then, but the ultimate experience for people were to play together on a local area network, also known as
okay.
LAN.
A
And,
land.
and then we that's why the CPL became so popular so quickly, because there was a need to play online because it was a better experience. Obviously, low pins for everyone, very little latency, high speed gaming, and people would bring their computers from all over the world to play at a CPL
Wow.
event. and,
Yeah.
and imagine being on the plane and carrying those monitors that were 21-inch and 17-inch. There were huge monitors
And
and,
super
and
expensive.
computers. They brought
Yeah.
their computers. And I'm not talking 100 people. I'm not talking 200 people. I'm talking 5,000, 7,000, 8,000 people
Wow.
at a time coming from all over the world carrying their computers and to
Holy
join the
smokes.
CPL event. So we were at the very beginning of this whole explosion of land competitions and, of course, of esports.
Unbelievable. Wow. So you guys started that, essentially started that movement, and and it took you all over the
Some
world, or
people, yes, when history, sometimes history is up to the people that just weren't there. So, and that's what's happening is a lot of people that are writing about it now were not there, and
okay,
so they have their own vision of what it was. But I can tell you that unequivocally, Edgar, there was nothing like the CPL at the time. We were the first.
okay. Wow.
The idea of professional gaming, I don't, maybe somebody else had it before, but who gets the prize? The person that thinks about it, or the person that does it? That's kind of the
It's
question.
execution.
Yeah.
Always execution.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm glad that you're on my side.
On my book, it's
That's what
always
I believe.
ideas are worth very little without execution. So
Uh-huh.
no, and so where do you start? You're in Dallas right now. Do you start this in Dallas?
Yes,
The
I
first
started.
events.
I started esports in Dallas in October, which is the same month we're in, of 1997. So, and from Dallas, we used to have always have two events in Dallas, what we call the summer event and the winter event. The two
Okay.
most horrible times to come to Dallas. Dallas
Yes,
gets really
I can
hot in
attest to
summer,
that.
so
Yeah.
it was like, we used to some of our graphics were like, come visit us on the surface of the sun. And then in winter it snows. It can snow.
It is
So
very cold.
it gets
Yeah.
cold. There's a lot of humidity, so it gets cold.
And
So
windy, so it makes the chill factor like drop to like the minus.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it was always, those are the two periods, and then between those periods we had events all over the world too.
Wow.
So,
But and so this is and just again going back into context. This is fascinating, Chad. By the way, because it's history. This is like the real like modern history. So you're 97. It's like the beginning of the dot-com boom era. So you're
right.
riding along that as well, because it's what
Yeah, I
all this
didn't know it at the
explosion.
time. I don't know how really. I mean, we weren't really web based. We did have a web experience that grew quickly, that was called the Cyber Athlete Amateur League, and that people would know as CAL. And
Okay.
that really was, they had about 600,000 people playing in it at the time.
Uh-huh.
And that was really our web presence. As far as the CPL was, because that's really what was driving, the web was driving everything at the time. We were a live event, so I don't know to what degree I can say that the boom, we were part of that boom, because we were doing live events
Yeah.
and with live audiences and all that. So I'm not sure. I know it helped. I know it helped. And
Right.
I know that technology expanding helped because more people interested in technology, more people interested in video gaming and in competitions of video games. But I'm not sure that it was so direct as most people think it was for us.
Okay.
So
So and how do you transition from the gaming industry to a full-on technology? How did that happen, and why did that happen?
well, I sold CPL, so that was another one of the exits, like you called it.
Yeah.
And I was tired at the time, and because we ran about 600 events worldwide, qualifiers, and we also ran major events in almost every single major, all major continents for sure. And we did that for about 12 years or so, and that was a little bit. My staff was tired.
Okay.
Some people decided to quit because they were tired. It was a lot of
They're just
work.
burnout. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, an offer came along from a Singaporean slash Chinese company, and it was fair enough. And we accepted it. And I took a few years off, maybe not quite a few years, and maybe a year and a half, and decided that I wanted to um, involve myself in all forms of human communication, and we started by partnering with large companies, companies like AMD and Logitech, and just a number of large
Yeah.
companies, and Corsair. I can go on. We partner with a lot of companies, and the partnership was, how do we improve communication for you as a company, and how do we improve communication between people? And that led to the launch of a social media community called G Tribe. And G Tribe is an ad-free, non-toxic, small niche social media community that has about 5.5 million people.
Oh
But
wow.
what we
Okay.
discovered when we did that is that we were proficient in developing technologies, since we developed our own social media platform.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, with the help of Theodor Atroshenko, who is our senior vice president of technology, we just, him and I decided, why not take advantage of an audience that's willing to help us develop technologies and start creating some of our own. And we've been lucky enough to be working on our current product, which is the one that attracted you, called Beacon, and it's been, in development for 6 years with the help of our community. and
Wow.
and I
Six
think
years
it's
in the
the
making.
best. I can tell you that from my analysis, it is absolutely the best video conferencing platform on the planet now, right now.
So,
And
so
we're on it, and we're
yeah,
on it
we're
right
on it.
now.
So thank, yeah, I was gonna say thank you for letting us, test your platform, and it, the image is so crystal clear, the sound is incredible. I mean, I can tell a very noticeable difference between, and the listener will hear past episodes and see the quality in between the two of those. So why did you decide to do this 6 years ago?
Again, for the same reason. How do you improve communication? There's
Yeah.
certain there you know you the, it, um that's if I were to answer that question honestly, I just thought that I can fix something that seemed broken to me.
Okay.
So, there's lots of players in the industry already. There is, obviously, everybody knows the big players, which are Zoom and Microsoft Teams and
And Skype in the
Cisco's
past.
WebEx, and
Yeah.
Verizon has Blue Jeans. And I mean, there's a plethora of solutions out there, but they're all kind of repetitions of the same thing. And we wanted to make ours completely different, kind of inspired by games, using some of the same network solutions that gaming has, and some of the visual cues that gaming has.
Okay. So making that experience, so bringing the best elements from the gaming community, which are what, like the refresh rates.
Yeah, frames per second, a little higher. We can go up to 4K resolution, so resolution's
Yep.
important. The audio, what you hear is important to us, so we use 3D binaural sound, which is incredible. Yesterday, when you and I were chatting before the interview, I played a trick on you, and it
And
scared you.
that was scared the crap out of me. But it was, so, you asked me to close my eyes, and I closed, and I was like, well, what's going on? And there was a knock on the door, and it just made me jolt because I actually felt that. So I was like, holy crap, who's knocking on the door?
And it
And
wasn't, no one was knocking
and
on
it
the door. It
wasn't.
was Beacon knocking in your
Yeah,
brain.
but I was like, holy mother! But that's what you said. That, like, oh, that comes from gaming.
That is comes from gaming. Yeah.
That
So that
surround experience.
spatial, that
Yeah.
spatial, is just not 3D, but it's also spatial and directional. And so when you take a plane of sound, and so there's a plane of sound, and you can, obviously, stereo is just separating from left to right, and then 3D is to do it. But when you add the tactile element of how we listen to, then it becomes more than a sound. It becomes, and for you, it was kind of an alert. Somebody's knocking on my door. You probably were like, okay, I told whoever, my wife maybe,
Yeah.
not to knock, not that I'm recording.
Yes.
And so all this is going through your mind at the moment. Is there a door? Was there a door in that direction? Because I picked a
No.
direction randomly.
No. And that's
No.
what I was like, what the fuck? I mean, who's knocking? I was like, I told
So I
you
should
guys
have
I'm
done the other
recording.
side.
I was like, who's? But yeah, but that was. I mean, just having that experience, versus like what you said, we're all, after, especially after this year and a half, we've been in Zoom, you know, generating Zoom or Teams fatigue, and it
Yeah,
just
well, drop the M and at the end of Zoom, and you end up with zoo, and
zoo.
that's really what it's been. It's kind of like a zoo. I don't listen. Um, they're 120 billion, I think, valued company. Congratulations on pushing a product that is subpar to the audience and taking advantage of a global pandemic to do so. Congratulations on that. I don't
Yeah,
want to do that. I want to be the post-pandemic, uh,
option. Yeah,
solution. I don't want to do that. So our board of directors and some other people and our investors wanted us to launch it during the pandemic, and we said no. We don't
not
want to be
ready.
associated with the pandemic. No, no, no,
I
no.
see.
This
Yeah.
is a real solution that is long lasting, and not just we're not a one trick pony.
No, but I mean, and again, kudos to you guys, because yeah, great opportunity. I would say, it sounds terrible, but yeah, we're locked in. Yeah, it's like, hey, and I can see how board of directors would be on your back. It's like, hey, this is the time. Let's do it. Let's do it.
No,
This is our time.
I
And
am the largest single shareholder of the company, so
so not much they can do. But
yeah,
yeah,
so I represent about 65% to 70% of the votes. And so I said no, and then if I had to vote, then it would be no. And now everybody's on board. Now everybody sees it, because we are 10 times a better product today than we were last year in the same time.
okay. So it helped you push, the team to improve.
Right. Mhm.
So where are you right now in, with Mass Luminosity? I mean, yesterday we talked a little bit about, how the transformational technology. You also did an interview that I read, that I thought it was really fascinating to see, and you're absolutely right, especially after the events of last Sunday and Monday with Facebook, how
Mhm.
that fragmentation in society, and how that was important for you to, to being in this company.
Wow, that's a that you. I'm glad that you read that, because the defrag the so if you had to distill all the things we do into one phrase that I came up with, I would say that we're about the defragmentation of the human experience. And and what does that mean? Well, it means that for example, Facebook was caught fragmenting the human experience by creating toxicity and discord and arguments and all that, and presenting a feed that would challenge you in a way that you had to react. Because
Right.
when you react and you interact, then they get that they get money, right?
Right.
That's
Yeah,
the
they
whole
get
point.
views, and views get money. So yeah.
So in our case, Edgar, we decided to do the opposite, which is, why don't we bring people together? Why don't we create a society that we can all be proud of? And I was giving a presentation one time, and it's so apropos that the fact that your program appears to Latinos. So I'm giving this presentation in Texas, and the reputation that Texas has as being populated by a lot of rednecks, it's somewhat deserved. And
Okay.
these guys were, more on that mentality, but they were flexible enough and interested enough to let me speak at in their conference room of their office. And somebody asked me why I create a beacon, and I said, of course I create a beacon to enhance and augment my race. And I let it just sit there like a
Okay.
bomb, like it was like a toxic gas in the room. And everybody that was semi distracted just
I was like, what?
and looked over, and I said, and of course I'm speaking of the human race.
Okay. And they were like, oh.
Ah,
Uh,
you can hear them breathing again. So that really is my goal, is to enhance and augment the human race.
okay. And how do and now we're gonna get a little more profound, and going back to your psychology days. How do we do that? How do
Oh, we
we
do it.
rewind?
We do it through technology by imitating the things that the human body recognizes as normal. So if you're robotic and you're at 10 frames per second, you're not. That's not normal. That's not how we communicate. If I can only see your face and not the background, that's not normal. If you were in any public setting and you talk to someone and you wouldn't move your eyes from their face, they would say,
Okay,
"What's wrong with
weirdo.
you, dude?"
Yes.
So
Okay,
there's
creepy.
yeah, so there are a lot of different ways making sound. I don't know how it's going to come across in the recording, but maybe it'll come across the way we want it to come across, which is more natural, more in the mid range.
Yeah.
So
Well, and again, this is part of that transformation. How do we unwind what these social networks have done? How do we move? I mean, what is your
you don't
vision,
have
not
to do
only for
much. You don't
Beacon?
have to do much. Humans, um, um, in the Spanish culture, there is an old saying that says, no hay mal que dure
100
cien
años.
años. Is it?
Yeah.
O cuerpo que lo resista, or something
Oh,
like that.
yeah.
I can't remember. Sorry, I'm going to get corrected
No,
by
no,
your
no, no, no,
audience.
no, no,
Yeah.
no. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Okay. And that's very ingrained in the Latino mind because we hear it constantly. There's this growing up from our grandparents and our parents and our family members, and that's exactly what I think. I think that people get tired of you know forgive me for the phrase crap,
Yeah.
and they and you build the opposite. So and now that it's become plainly clear that these people are not only violating your privacy and your security as a human being by putting you at risk, by exposing you to people that are opposed to you as a person because that
Yeah.
makes them money. What's the opposite of that? And the opposite I would challenge is experiences that we're building that will enhance human communication and defragment the human experience.
And again, just using that word as we use it in technology is like that makes absolute sense. And yesterday we also talked about that experience, especially now if we go into the Latino experience, us as immigrants, or second generation. How do we enhance that experience with the people, with our family that are left behind, and for whatever reason they can't come or we can't go?
Yeah, or they want to live in
Yeah,
the countries. The
absolutely.
U.S. is
Yeah.
not the solution for all people. Beacon has three levels. Initially, Beacon X, which is the one that we're on right now, which is free with unlimited time. It allows up to 6 people to be on. Then we're beta testing Beacon Plus, which allows 30 people to
Okay.
go on. And I think you signed up for the beta.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And then
I just gotta find 30 people. I mean, 29 more people that to
yeah,
get online with me.
yeah, we have a call today that you can join, and hopefully there'll be some people there. And then there's Beacon Max, and Beacon Max Maximo, lo máximo,
Lo
is
máximo.
it's gonna be perfect for the Latino community, because for 14.95 a month, not only can you experience the beauty of a high quality video call, but you can also have it also has a voice option, which is VoIP, voice over IP based. And for the 14.95, you can call a mobile or a landline,
Landline.
and then you what the beauty of it is that it allows you to associate your cell number to this call, so that family members who are from I'm not sure that this is just Latino. I think this has kind of become common that you don't answer calls that you don't know who they are, but it's
Right.
very specific to the Latino culture because
Oh,
that's
yeah,
always since there was caller ID, that was the
yeah.
rule.
Yes, absolutely. If you don't recognize the number, like, not
Nope,
gonna
that's not
answer.
for me because it's dangerous. It could be
Right.
dangerous in certain countries, right? Anyway, we can associate it so when you make that phone call, it definitely identifies who the person is calling. It shows whatever number you
And yeah, you
associated.
showed me that demo, and it was fantastic because it was like I remember, in the early days of Click, that was actually the first problem that I think I mentioned to you that we wanted to resolve. The calling card fraud. and we started with a solution that was VoIP. But it was kind of like a virtual card associated with your number. But the first problem that we encountered, like it didn't, if it wasn't attached to your number, the receptor, the person receiving the call, like, who's this? It's an anonymous call. Like, "No, I'm not going to answer because I don't know who you are." So that caused a lot. That caused a lot of friction. Then we solved it, and it was fine. But
There's lots of things. I think that technology, the way they were when in the early days of the internet, it was so aspirational, and people were talking
yeah,
about all the great things that the internet were going to do by humanity for humanity, and then and then and then commerce happened and money came as the primary um, motivation to do things. And
yeah,
then it all got very then the applications of machine learning and AI and algorithms and all that, and it became it's what it is now. It's this you know kind of messy soup of all of humanity and emphasizing the worst of humanity. And
yeah.
I always think if an alien civilization were to connect to the internet, they would say, "What's the fascination with cats and with arguing?" Those are the only two things.
Yeah, they're
And
like, these guys.
this
Yeah,
this so I think that intolerance that these algorithms are creating are dangerous, very dangerous to society. So I don't care if we're large, small, or whatever, as long as there's an oasis in the middle of the desert that you can go to and feel at peace,
an
or you
escape.
can have technologies that are not built to, tire you and to that don't have any advertising or anything like that. I
Right.
mean, we even removed the word beacon from the call. So we don't even leave it there like everybody else. We just get it out of the
Get
way.
it? Yeah.
It because this is not a self promotion. This is about we didn't invent video conferences on browsers. WebEx did that, Cisco, but we what we've done is we've reinvented the way that it's done.
Right. Improve the experience.
Big time,
Big.
big
Yeah. Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
big
And
time.
and to that, yesterday we also touched on a very important point about data privacy, security, which again are coming now to the top of everybody's mind, and especially and I'm saying this because I'm also involved with in an organization. It's a nonprofit that's creating that kind of experience, like a filter in between corporations and consumers. How to filter that data. It's just basically being like a toll in the highway to say, like, no, 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 we're going to connect you with this set of users that are underprivileged, that have been historically underserved, but at the same, we're not going to compromise their identity. We're not going to compromise their privacy just for the sake of hits or whatever. So that's something that also interests me in what you were saying.
Yeah, there two things when you're talking about that to keep in mind. One of them is not to use the word privacy and security as they are the same thing.
Right.
They are not. Privacy is one thing, security is one thing, but privacy depends also on security to really be private. So on the Beacon, for example, you can set up two-factor authentication all the way through from biometric to a USB key to the common one of getting a text message
Yeah.
with a code. The reason that we did that is because we know if you can't say you're private if you have incredible lack of security. And so we wanted the accounts to be secure, not only by our encryption methodologies, but also by the way that our users access the information on there. Then there's the encryption on the calls, and there's two ways of doing that. One of them is by maintaining a peer-to-peer connection, which is the way that we're connected to each other right now, is peer-to-peer, which means that that the encryption, decryption, encoding, and decoding, which is four factors, pretty much happen at the local levels. So our computers are talking to each other, and
Okay.
and they're exchanging all the information and
And there's
data.
no intermediaries. Yeah.
There's no intermediate, but I must clarify that for larger calls, you need intermediate servers. And
Hmm.
there are two ways of doing them. One of them is the Zoom way, for example, which is that so Zoom got in trouble with the FTC because they were claiming that their calls were encrypted when they were when and
I remember
they
that. Yeah.
redefined two-factor authentication. Excuse me, they redefined point-to-point encryption. So they said point-to-point encryption. So what they meant by that is that the call is encrypted from, let's call it, there was a source and then there's a receiver. So let's just say from the source to the server, it's encrypted, of course. The server, it's now not encrypted. They set up another key and then send
Okay.
it to the receiver encrypted. So point to point meant point from the originator to their server
To the
and from
server.
their
Yeah.
server. But what happens in the server? And so I have my own theories about that, since they have data servers that actually are accumulating data on the calls, and they all happen to be in China, which is a strange thing for me. Why would you put those in China? And
Yeah.
so I know of many companies, including Logitech, that will not use Zoom.
Zoom at all. Yeah,
So
no, no. That I work with companies that are like no adamant about using, so that they'll either use Teams or WebEx.
they're not doing much
Yeah.
better. WebEx is probably the best of that. Teams, I don't know what. Honestly, you're trusting Microsoft. So
No, I don't. I mean, but there's a couple of companies that that they only use that, and I'm like, why? Why are you
yeah,
using?
yeah. Well, they need to be a little bit more open-minded and try Beacon, for example, because when we invented Beacon, we when you say that we use safety and we use encrypted and all that, we actually, when we have to use a server, we're using a new technology that actually is Google invented it, and Google's not even using it. So,
Okay.
and what happens is that and this is still in development, but what happens is the call comes in, hits one of our servers, but it remains, it scrambles.
Okay.
So it scramble. It doesn't encrypt it. It scrambles it. So because very technical, why you can't encrypt a call all the way through a server. A server has to be able to manage that call and has to know what those packets are, and it has to know what audio and video is. There's lots of information that it needs to know, but we don't need to know that. The server needs to know that.
Right.
So basically it scrambles it where you cannot tell. Like there is a video of it online that I can send you later, and it shows what it looks like. You can't, if you can make it out, man, I'll give I'll give you an award, because I we can't make it out. And then it goes, and then of course it goes encrypted again to the receiving party. That's how we manage that.
Okay.
And and we why? Because we're not in the business of snooping on people and listening to their calls and recording their videos. We
Or
want
settling their
so
information. Yeah.
yeah, and companies require the think about it this way. And to your audience, I challenge your audience, everybody in Latin America has some point, in some historical point, that they're proud of. In the United States, it happens to be the Declaration of Independence, right? The Proclamation of
Right.
Independence. What is, how can that be done without privacy?
That's true.
Think about it. How can
That's
that
true.
be done without privacy?
Without
If
privacy, that
the
would
if
have
the
get
if the British
quashed.
Empire was totally aware of all the conversations that were going on, these are historical moments that gave us freedom, and every country has stories like that. They all occur in privacy. So
Yes.
privacy should be protected.
Absolutely. Now that's a great perspective. I didn't think it. I didn't. I hadn't thought about it that way. But you're absolutely true. And going back to Mexico, all of that was
Yes.
behind closed doors, utmost secrecy,
Yeah.
because your
Yeah,
skin was at
you
risk.
were wanted to get free from Spain. No, oh no, no, we weren't allowed Spain to listen to every single one of our conversations. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
ain't gonna work. Ain't gonna work.
Well, so what's next for you, Angel? I mean, I know you're growing this, another company. You've had a couple successful, very successful exits. Where do you see yourself? I mean, this is not an interview, but for a job. But I mean, I'm really interested. I mean, it's been a fascinating story to hear, from the early '90s to now. Where do you see yourself? And
Yeah,
I'm
well, the
thinking
80s,
about
because
technology.
the
Yeah.
investment banking was in the 80s, and so um, I so first of all, um, I would tell you that Beacon has been the hardest project to see through. The technologies challenged us. It challenged us to a very high degree, and that's why it took so long. Um, because we're private, we could afford to do that. If we were public, then there'd be another story.
Right.
We would be on a quarterly basis. Um, so that's number one. So um, because it's been so hard, and that's I'm putting that as number one is difficulty. Then I have developed um, a special type of emotion towards Beacon because it is such a pure expression of what we wanted. And
Okay.
with all the challenges and hard it was, I have a bit of an attachment to it. So I will not use any other platform ever under any circumstances. In fact, I can tell you how extreme I am. I got a Nexus, which is a way to enter the Canadian border
Yeah.
fast. I'm getting one for Mexico also, and because I vacation there and the lines are long and blah blah blah. And they said that they wanted to do an interview with me on Zoom, and I turned it down. I will not, for any purpose or any reason, use that platform. Period.
Okay.
End of story.
Así se acabó.
Se acabó. So, to answer your question now, those were two premises. Uh, I see myself developing with my team. I have a incredible team, the best I think in the world. Young, they're not, they're not, they don't allow the impossible to be an obstacle. they, they,
Did
they,
you see this as a challenge?
they see it as a challenge. Oh, it's
And it's like
impossible. Let's
challenge
let's
accepted.
just go.
Yes.
You know, and the beginning, of course, they all go, okay, that's not going to be a thing, and then they start working on it, and they find ways to get past those boulders. So I think that the next thing is going to be a streaming service to compete directly against Amazon's Twitch. So we would probably start working on that in summer of next year once
Okay.
Beacon is
Well, now you have the
established.
source code, so.
I know. It must be a terrible day for them. We looked at their source code. Of course, I didn't understand it, but Theodore does, and and some other of our members do, and no one's very impressed with it. It's kind of old
That
technology. Yeah,
apparently, yeah. So
yeah.
so it leads me to believe like how companies can get that big, that popular with outdated technology.
Oh, timing, timing,
Okay.
timing is at the end the best win. At the end, the
Mhm.
best win. Very few people like to talk about, Betamax and VHS and say, well, the Betamax was the best. Don't don't go back 40 years or whatever it's been.
Yeah.
Come on, let's stay current. Look at the iPhone. It gets better every time. They can
Yeah.
sell it to the same people every year.
Yeah.
I bought it. I got the iPhone 13. I love it. It's nice. I'm gonna plug them. It's a nice product, Apple. You nailed it. But and then Samsung has a very very good competitors, if not better phones. So the best leads technology, always does. And so being the best is where we're gonna stay.
All right. Well, kudos to you, Angel. And I really appreciate you taking the time on a Saturday. I know you're super busy. What a fascinating story. I would love to, for you to come back and tell us, where Beacon is. And I know we're going to do something. We're going to work together in positioning Beacon throughout, Latin America, in the U.S. and the Latino market. So I'm really
I
excited
cannot
about
wait.
getting to
I
meet you.
cannot wait for my hermanos y hermanas de los pueblos latinos que me ayuden con Piquen, porque está diseñado con ellos en mente.
I love it, and that's what we're here for, man. Well, thank you so much for
Appreciate it.
joining us, Angel.
Thank you, Edgar, for having me. This has been a blast. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening, and remember to join us at somosfounderpodcast.com.